Hey guys, what is up? You know what's up. Here it is. It's the top 5 best DPS classes on Warmanes Wrath of the Lich King. There are a lot of classes and specializations you can pick in order to DPS some bosses in Wrath of the Lich King, and lots of them can succeed big time in certain situations. Think about Unholy Death Knight AoE on Onyxia Whelps. However, today's list will be about sustainable single target DPS. Do keep in mind that RNG, group composition and the quality of the group will always matter much more than the singular player trying his best. Sometimes RNG just says no, and we gotta deal with that. Whilst I'm sure we don't see eye to eye on everything, and thank God, imagine if everyone did, I would go absolutely crazy. And more so than that, arguing can and should lead to a better understanding of the subject. That being said, today I will talk about the top 5 DPS classes in my opinion. That is important to remember. If you don't agree with my opinion, then leave it in the comments below so we or anyone who happens to see the comment can argue about it and get that better understanding of the subject. Before we start off with number 5, however, I want to give a few honorable mentions to my own favorite DPS classes that I've been close with or have been top DPS with at some of the more important fights in the game, like Lich King 25 Heroic and Ruby Sanctum 25 Heroic. The honorable mentions being Retribution Paladin, Balanced Druid and Frostfire Bolt Mage. Number 5. Marksman Hunters. Marksman Hunters can, with the right procs and crits, get an insanely high burst, and they absolutely need that luck if they want to make it close to top tier DPS. But this is number 5, and considering the amount of RNG in this game, almost any class could have been number 5. Now that I'm thinking of it, I don't think I have ever topped a Lich King 25 Heroic with a Hunter, but I have with a Balanced Route, so take that as you will. Hunters, however, and yes, I will be saying Hunters because what is Beast Mastery and well, survival is pretty okay, I guess. Marksman, however, is all about the single target DPS. With the right talent setup, you can get a crazy amount of explosive trap damage alone, especially if you get the time to set up several traps on one boss by placing one 25 seconds before the pull, then right after your initial burst, and then another one with readiness. Rotation wise, they are pretty easy with the right macros. Like I've already said, it's all about the burst. You need Downka proc from Deathbringer's Will and a lot of crits, so Piercing Shot stacks up nicely. And as some of you might know because of my previous video, responsibility plays a big part in being a top DPS. If you do not do your job right, you might as well have someone with lower DPS that actually does their job. And Hunters have a lot of responsibility and it often eats away at their DPS. Things like kinetic bombs, obviously misdirection, and in some places people will want you to put a freezing trap too. All of these things being required of the Hunter combined with the harsh truth that is RNG. Hunter made it on the list, but just barely. Number 4. Feral Druid. The number 1 on my hardest to play classes list, Feral Druid is just that, really freaking hard. And as I pointed out in that video, it has an incredible amount of small optimizations that make it better as a whole. Having the hardest possible DPS rotation in the game, and yeah, I do think it's a rotation, just a very long one and one that can be summed up in 30 seconds or every Savage Roar. In between that, of course, you get a bunch of clear casting procs that you want to use on either Ferocious Bite or alternatively Shred. On top of that, skills giving either 1 or 2 combo points makes it relatively RNG dependent, and if you want to aim for number 1 on Recount or Skada or whatever damage meter that you are using, you will want some luck on your side. And even when all the stars align, there is little to no room for error. Responsibility also has a part to play in them being so hard to top with. Imagine if anyone asks for a Druid buff or a Resurrection. What do you do then? You got that right. Drop your cat form, cast the spell, jump back into cat form, and hope you will still have some energy to continue casting your spells. Keep in mind that while you are out of cat form, you are doing little to no damage except for maybe your bleeds. Punishing as ever, if you make a small mistake, you are likely out of the bigger picture, that bigger picture being DPS. Although if you have ever seen a really good Feral Druid get the luck that I was speaking of, trust me, you will be putting Hand of Salvations on that bad kitten because damn son, that DPS! Number 3. Combat Rogue. Now, a small disclaimer, I have never tried Assassination Rogue. I had a friend once that geared it and he seemed to do really well with it, even with relatively low gear score. But just as I cannot speak on Affliction, I cannot speak on Assassination, ergo why I am now talking about Combat. Combat Rogue has about 3 spells and a handful of cooldowns. If they didn't have Tricks of the Trade, they would be number 1 least responsible class in PvE. However, they do have Tricks of the Trade, and with the 2 set tier 10 bonus, it even gives you energy instead of it taking energy away. Very nice indeed. This is one of those classes that benefits greatly from engineering as well. If you are able to hit with your offhand weapon more, you will get more energy due to the Combat Potency talent. As far as DPS go though, they are a lot better than a 3-button class might seem to be at first glance. With a burst possibly being one of the strongest in the game, it goes without saying that the thing you will want to do is maintain your burst. And that is rather impossible, but don't fear, with the glyph of Killing Spree, that burst will be back up in no time. And if you practice Combat Rogue, and once you have geared it up, you will have 0 issues fighting for that glorious top DPS spot. Number 2. Fury Warriors. Oh geez, Fury Warriors! Perhaps they are a laughingstock in PvP, but in PvE it's a whole different situation entirely. They will need the gear of course, any kind of DPS is very gear reliant, but especially melee classes really do need at least 6.2k gear score before they can really start popping off. Warriors are no different. However, they do sport some of the easiest to get stat caps, the easiest rotation in the game, that being Bloodthirst, Second Slam, Whirlwind, First Slam, Sunder Armor, and of course always keep using Heroic Strike if you are above 50 rage. The golden rule of DPS applies to warriors as it does to any class. If you have a GCD to use it. The thing Fury Warriors should be mostly focused on is trying to stack that deep wounds, with any of the 3 Deathbringer's will procs but haste and crit really shining there. They are able to help you out massively with their long duration. With very little utility that people will want you to use regularly, Sunder Armor being the exception there, and the fact they ranked in at number 2 on the least responsible classes on Warmanes Wrath of the Lich King list, it is easy to see why they are such monsters. Especially with a Shadowmourne equipped, their damage becomes absolutely ridiculous, only being topped by one other class consistently on single target. More on that later. Or more like right now, I guess. Number 1! TTW Mage. Having seen and experienced firsthand the power of Ignite, it cannot be disputed. Fury Warriors can do a lot of damage, Affliction Warlocks have great dots, Hunters might have a mighty pet, Feral Druids can complain about their rotation being hard all they want, and Combat Rogues love doing it from behind. But there is only one class, and one class alone, that holds their hands on something so stupidly overpowered that it can potentially do an infinite amount of DPS. Coming in at number 1, it is one of the 4 pure DPS classes in the game, and it is of course the TTW Mage. There really is no other class that has 40 yards plus range, a stacking debuff in Ignite, and literally not a single responsibility on any fight. Its consistency is incredible, and RNG is really the only thing that can stop you from having a good time. That and aggro if you are having too good of a time. Mages are the perfect DPS machines. While I was getting some video footage for this list, I did just one VOA 25, and the first and only boss I killed, I got a 59.1k Ignite dot tick. And that was while I was probably missing some buffs, focus magic for sure because I forgot it existed due to my negative IQ. I personally had a lot more fun in Frostfire Bolt because it's a little bit easier on your mana and you can get Dragon's Breath or Blast Wave instead of 3 out of 3 Master of Elements, but alas, I concur. After having tried to beat TTW as Frostfire Bolt, TTW wins. It has always won, it will never not win, it is TTW. That's that for this list, and remember to like, comment about what you want to see next, and subscribe if you feel like I'm worthy of these things. And as always, stay beautiful my people!